This week's portion is Parsha Mikeitz. It's towards the book of the end of Genesis. And we're introduced to one of the most fascinating characters in my mind in the whole of the Bible, and that's Joseph. He's the only person in the Bible, certainly, I believe, who's known as Hatzadik. That's the kind of what we associate him with him. Yosef Hatzadik, Joseph the righteous man. Now, a lot of righteous people in the Bible, as far as we can see. Abraham, Moses, Samuel. There's a whole list there. Why is it that Joseph is the one who's called Hatzadik? And I think that we see a characteristic in this week's portion that he epitomizes, that to me defines what it means to be a righteous man. And that is the characteristic of responsibility. If you look all the way through his life, he starts out, he's number 11 of 12 brothers, yet takes responsibility for his brothers. He undertakes on their behalf. He rebukes them, even when as one of the youngest, because he feels he should. He gets sold into Egypt, sold into slavery in Egypt, and he starts running the household. Almost immediately, he's running his master's household. He gets put in prison, he's running the prison. He's in charge. It says that the prison guards trusted him with the keys to the prison. When he leaves prison, he takes over all of Egypt. He runs the show in Egypt. His brothers come down looking for money, looking for food, and he takes responsibility for them and rebukes them again, and then he ends up providing for his whole family and providing for the whole of Egypt. Responsibility is the name of the game with Joseph, and that to me is what righteousness is about. Righteousness is taking responsibility. Because if you think about it, you want to define a righteous man, how do you define it? A person who does a lot of good. Well, how much is a lot? What's a lot? Does good 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 10 hours a year? How much good makes a person a righteous man? And the Torah answers that question. And the answer it gives in the form of Joseph and who he was is that a lot is not enough. That's not the definition of what a righteous man is. You have to take responsibility for people. That's what makes a righteous person. And the reason for that is that we human beings all have a part inside of ourselves that is good, that wants to do good, that enjoys doing good, that has a pleasure to give. Even the most selfish of people give every now and then. We have a feeling, we like to give. You take a selfish man, you'll find times in his life where he genuinely wanted to give. The challenge is not giving when you feel like it. The challenge is giving when you don't feel like it. And that's what responsibility is. Responsibility means that making an undertaking to give even at the times that I don't feel like doing so. A homeless person, you can walk down the street and anyone can throw a few pennies into his cup to help him out. But what about undertaking? What about responsibility? What about asking him what his problems are? What about seeing how you can contribute more than that? What about taking him out for dinner and talking to him about maybe how you can really help him, how you can genuinely help him? Because throwing some money into his jar is nice, but it's not helping him in a real way. It's not giving him what he really needs. A colleague at work, anybody can say, well, let me make a cup of tea for you, I'm making one for myself. You kind of get in the mood and you just feel it's a nice thing to do. But how about seeing them when they're in pain? And perhaps you're not having a great day either, but noticing that they're suffering and saying, let's go out for a drink tonight and talk about it. And then hearing out what they're saying and seeing if there's anything you can do. Seeing if there's any way you can help, even though it might put you out, even though it might not be something that's as comfortable for you as you would like. What about in terms of your partner, in terms of a spouse, in terms of a marriage? We like to give. We love to give to our partners when we feel like doing it, and sometimes we don't. But what about giving rebuke? What about taking responsibility for their spiritual development, even though it might cause friction, even though it might not take the relationship in the way you want to go, but I'm taking responsibility for that person, taking responsibility for their own development and for their own encouragement. That's different to just giving. And that's what Judaism says is righteousness. Righteousness is when you undertake on behalf of other people. You take responsibility for them. Every single one of us in this world will give of ourselves to a greater or lesser extent. That's not the challenge. The real challenge is to what extent do we take responsibility. That defines the level of our righteousness. Somebody who takes responsibility in all areas of their life, no matter where it will lead them and no matter how much challenge it leads them to, is what Judaism calls a righteous man. Joseph Hatzadik, the righteous man, was such a human being. I wish you Shabbat Shalom. If you're interested in finding out more about Tikun and what we do, please log on to our website, Tikun with 1k.co.uk. Thank you.